The Raw King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring finals are set for next week. And who will win? The next chapter of the Bloodline story could be set up right before us in the King of the Ring tournament. We're going to get into that. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype, Ballard. Here on Tap Out Talk, we're going to dissect the next chapter of the King of the Ring tournament. Could there be little bloodline? Could there be a little bit of a different crowning? Let's get in. So we want to start out tonight featured 4 quarterfinals matches for the Raw side of the men and women's bracket. And we're going to start out going through a little bit of the action. And I want to ask you guys, when you're watching this tournament unfold on Raw, I feel like it's a really good blend. The Queen in the King of the Ring tournament is the thing that's drawing me in personally, and it's making me stay for Raw. And even if there was less matches this week, I'm noticing that I'm staying around for Raw a little bit more because I want to see what else is going on. And the WWE is very smart with the booking of this. Let's go into our first matchup. So our quarterfinals matchup for the Queen of the Ring as Io Sky making her entrance and Shayna Baszler making her entrance, immediately attacking Io Sky. We did get a clip of them entering the arena earlier, but we then get the start of our matchup right after a commercial, and Baszler was in control, pulling the ring skirt up, threading Sky's arm through the ring frame, kicking her in the elbow, and then ultimately we get a lot of just back and forth, and Io then slips out and shoves the Queen of Spades, hanging her in the ropes by the knee. Baszler then slips out, crashing to the floor, and Io with an Acai moonsault to send us back into a commercial, then back, and Sky with a near fall off the springboard drop kick. A La Casita is reversed into a Kirifuda clutch. Shayna falling back, going for the tap out, and Io rolls out, and the arm trap crossface is applied. Baszler fights out, an inverted facelock backbreaker for a 1 and a 2. Sky with a dragon screw, really working that knee, and knees in the corner, and then a giant step up top, and Io Sky hits the diving moonsault for the 1, the 2, and the 3. The win in the pin. Io Sky advances in the Queen of the Ring tournament over Shayna Baszler. I feel bad for Shayna Baszler. She was the submission magician of NXT and had such a great long championship spree. And I feel like she's at a point in her career where she cannot get a win, and she's almost playing the Natalya Neidhart of the submission side of the women's division. It would have been nice to see possibly Shayna Baszler get a little bit of a push in this tournament. But ultimately, you do have Io Sky, who is just coming freshly off of a championship WWE rank. So you want to get her into the semifinals. And WWE does just that. We then get a post-match interview, and Io is interviewed, and she answers in Japanese. She seems extremely upset. And she's going to basically states that she's going to win the tournament and then win the title again. So then we're going to go and proceed to our next match on Raw, which we do get Lillian Garcia out with Samantha Irvin in a pass the torch kind of moment where Lillian just talks about how Samantha's doing such a great job. And I agree, she really is. But Lillian, WWE brought her in for this reason to really promote Samantha. So we then get the New Day interviewed backstage, and Kofi Kingston says that tonight is about payback, and his match against Rey Mysterio reminded him, happened at a house show over the weekend, that there's no room in the ring for self-doubt and failure. So ultimately, New Day makes their entrance, and we go into a commercial and out. Adam Pearce is chatting. We get a little bit of a confusion with R-Truth and The Miz talking a little bit about just some backstage interview right in the middle of these guys' entrance. So I thought that was a little weird to do during this matchup. And so ultimately then we get Gunther versus Kofi. Finally, after commercial, after backstage interviews, after Lillian Garcia, can we start the Gunther match already? So at this point, Kingston coming in very fast, too furious with the bell and a dive, and he strikes Gunther and cuts him off with a chop. The ring general's leg goes into the apron and up to the post. He's smashing the knee into the steel. And you can tell Kofi's really working on that apron. In the ring, we do get, after a major attack and a back and forth on the outside, we get inside and we finally get the bell and we realize the match is finally starting after an outside attack. We get the Trouble in Paradise German suplex, but Kofi lands on his feet and there's a drop kick to the injured knee. So the turnbuckle avalanche and boom! We get so close of a count to the floor. Gunther takes over and puts himself in a half crab on the announcer's table. We then go back and forth into commercials. We get Gunther in control, a hard whip into the corner. And I gotta say, these two styles gel really well. But really, who does Gunther not gel with? We get Gunther going back and forth with the high-flying Kofi. Kofi tries to hit a charade of moves here, pulling out even the SOS in this back and forth to each other. Kingston later charges at him. He hits the Trouble in Paradise and connects, and he gets him back in the ring. Kofi beats the count, and Gunther makes it inside, but just barely. There's a Trouble in Paradise that's blocked. We get the Tenryu Bomb, and 2 count on that. Into the Boston Crab. We get the Boston Crab kicking in, and Gunther wins by submission on Kofi Kingston. Good dominant match by Gunther. The ring general really showing that he can gel with a lot of different styles, but we knew that during his Intercontinental Championship reign. And the right move was made here to make Gunther advance to the semifinals. In our matchup in the main event, we'll find out if it's going to be Ilya Dragunov in a major rematch. We even get a backstage segment on Raw setting this up and talking about how Ilya Dragunov stating that he's beat Gunther, and he's not worried. And Gunther actually shows for an awkward stare down as they didn't go back to commercial. Next match of the night for the Queen of the Ring, we get Lyra Valkyria, who the WWE really, really likes and wants you to know who she is, versus Joey Stark. Not that, Zoe Stark, in the Queen of the Ring quarterfinals. Collar and elbow into the corner right away. Valkyria up and over, and a big arm drag. She ducks a lariat, springboard leg, a hip toss into the kneeling armbar to the ropes. A quick little back and forth here between these guys, also with a commercial. But starts with a near fall, falling to ultimately Lyra escapes a submission and sends her to the floor. The wrecking ball drop kick back inside, back and forth. Zoe gets a near fall out of it. Stark suplexes her into the turnbuckle for the 1 and a 2. We get the Z360 countered. Lyra Valkyria wins by pinfall with the Nightwing. And in post-match, we get Valkyria interviewed, and she speaks in Irish and says that she'll let the fans know what that is. If you guys know what that is, you speak Irish, let us know down below. We'd love to know. But ultimately, what the WWE did here, last week, I could tell they were really wanting to push Lyra Valkyria. They were giving her the rub with Becky Lynch in the in-ring interview. Now, giving the win over Zoe Stark, and that ultimately is going to propel her to the semifinals next week on Raw in the Queen of the Ring tournament. Guys, I just want to say, hit subscribe if you're back. Again, thank you for that. And hit like either way, because if you like wrestling, it's going to help the algorithms out for you and me and just allow us to see and talk more wrestling. But I also want to tell you guys about the fans of ProWrestling.com, Wrestling Fans Insight, with my tag partners, Will, John, Carlos, Heather, you know the crew. Let's get in. Ultimately, we've got the main event of Raw. Ilya Dragunov versus main event Jey Uso. We get the matchup. We get Jey Uso getting a little pre-match promo, which I absolutely love. And am I the only one? I probably am, to be honest. That feels like the WWE is trying to turn Jey Uso into the WWE version of Swerve Strickland. I just kind of have this feel with the Yeet and all this. Like they're trying to do something with him and his evolution of his character. So we do get ultimately the amazing entrance of Jey Uso. WWE knows got to be loving that with the cell phones. And then we get Dragunov making his entrance. And I gotta say, it's one of my favorite theme songs in the WWE currently. Dragunov ultimately lays a bunch of chops and Uso fends himself off, knocks himself to the floor off the ropes. The suicide dive connects. Ilya sets him up on the announcer's desk. Jay slips out and spears him over the desk. We go to commercial, and then we're back. Dragunov with a Cobra twist in the ring, using Uso slings him aside, trading shots, and we get an Enziguri. A Constantine special connects, and then always 1 and a 2. But ultimately, chops in the corner. Jay back with the super kick for the 2. And then Ilya powers up. Out of the corner, we get the H-bomb that connects from Ilya. He's so fast, so strong, and could we see Gunther versus Ilya Part 2? Jay cuts him off, though, with the spear, and comes off the top rope with the Uso splash. Boom! 1, 2, 3. Main event, Jay Uso is going on to the semifinals next week on Raw against Gunther. Ultimately, this matchup could lay into a lot of things, and we got to ask ourselves, what happened here with Ilya? Well, WWE has got a lot invested in their bloodline story, and I'm going to talk about that in the final thoughts. But ultimately, we get Jay Uso being protected here. The other side of that coin, I don't know if WWE wanted to just give away Ilya Dragunov versus Gunther Part 2 in a random Raw in the spring. So I feel like they might be saving that for a bigger event down the line in a bigger situation. I personally would have went the route of Ilya versus Gunther because I feel like that's must-see TV. But we are going to get the very popular Jay Uso on one side as an extreme face versus the kind of cool heel of Gunther on the other side. And I'll be interested to see how these two will gel with their chemistry, because I'm learning that Jay Uso, as he evolves into a single competitor, is, kind of hit and miss sometimes with his opponents. And I feel like you guys all felt that same way and were shocked by that at Mania, against his own brother even. So ultimately, I do feel that we will get, it could go Gunther or main event hitting it off, but we're going to talk about that too. So let's get in. So I want to get into the final thoughts of this overall King and Queen of the Ring. On one side of it, I do believe, we look at the women's overall draft and then how that led into the setup of this tournament. I do believe that we will probably get Laya Valkyria in the finals for the Queen of the Ring tournament. But, Io Sky is going to be a very good test for her. And Io kind of wanting her title back as well. But ultimately, I believe that WWE right now really wants to push Laya Valkyria really hard and really fast. I do believe, though, it does not matter who wins on the Raw women's side, because I believe they're running into a buzzsaw on SmackDown that is either Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill. And I do believe it might be Queen Jade leading into the year. Raw most likely will receive the male King of the Ring. That was my prediction. At first, I had Gunther defeating Randy Orton in my predictions. But I have to kind of wonder, will the WWE swerve us? See what I did there? A little bit. With main event Jay Uso actually defeating Gunther. And I believe that the way you could easily do that is through booking. You could have Giovanni Vinci come back and cost Gunther his King of the Ring, allowing main event Jay Uso to sneak into the semifinals, going into the finals. At this point, we then go into the SmackDown side, where I do believe we would get Randy Orton to meet possibly Gunther in the main event of the finals. However, I do believe that the Bloodline could be looming here in introducing the next chapter, where Tama Tonga would actually get the defeat on SmackDown this week. Time will tell. Moving ahead, and then Bloodline rules taking on and eliminating Randy Orton, allowing Tama Tonga to be in the finals for King of the Ring, along with main event Jay Uso evolving the next chapter of the Bloodline. And we got a hint of that on SmackDown with Paul Heyman at Backlash, with that awkward transition between the two. So we could get the next chapter evolving at this moment and at this time. Well, guys, those are my results and thoughts of the Raw version of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament. Let me know your guys' predictions down below. And thank you as always. I'm out. Like, share, subscribe. It's not goodbye. It's game over.